My name is Chris Wofford. When I think about my life, it feels like a series of failures, a series of failing to live up to expectations, of missing the mark in a lot of different ways. I grew up in church and went to a church school for the first 6 years of my education, but I found myself not being obedient. I found myself loving a lot of things more than I loved God. It's probably not real clear, doesn't show up to those that are around me. Tried really hard to hide and cover it up like everybody else does. I guess I've had two big moments of crisis in my life. The first one was when I was 12. I was involved in a hunting accident with my dad, and accidentally shot and killed him. I was very fortunate at the time that he lived long enough for me to talk to him. And when I apologized, he told me it wasn't my fault. He said, "It's my fault. I didn't tell you to be careful. But it was my fault, and I knew it." I guess I did okay and managed dealing with it as I grew up. But I learned to hide things, and I learned shame. The second moment of crisis was there was sin in my life that I had struggled with for a long time, an issue that I couldn't get past, that I kept returning to. I failed over and over, tried to fight it, tried to do better, spent time in prayer, spent time crying over Psalms of confession in the Bible. But I kept failing again. Felt like something I couldn't beat, that I wouldn't be able to get past. One of the verses from the Bible that really struck me at this time was Psalm 26:11. "As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool returns to his folly." And that was really what it felt like to me. I kept returning over and over again to the thing that made me sick. And I never thought I was going to get past it. Finally got to a point where I was just miserable. I hated it. I hated myself. I was sick of dealing with it. But I couldn't bring myself to talk to anybody about it. You can't go to somebody and confess something like that. How do you do that? So I started looking online for a place to get some help. And I stumbled across a Bible study that you did with the pastor over a 60-day period. And you would email back and forth. It looked like it would promise the help that I needed, the accountability that I needed. And most of all, it would provide the anonymity that I was looking for. As I went through it, I began to get some traction, began to do better, began to feel better about it. But at some point I realized that I was never going to be able to get past it if I didn't confess my sin, if I didn't deal with it, if I didn't bring it out to the open. And so about 45 days in, I made the decision to confess to my wife. And I did. And it was difficult. There were times we weren't sure that if our marriage was going to survive it or not. But it did. And we made it through. And if I had to do it again, I would have done it all over again. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary to have the light shone on that sin to be able to deal with it. I'd like to say after that I'm perfect, that I don't really have to deal with sin anymore. But the weirdest thing is that the more I've grown, the more other sin has started to bother me. I look at my life and I'm still just frustrated with the things that I see where I miss the mark, where I fail to live up to God's standard. Again, it may not be something that shows up a lot to other people, But I know how angry I get when I'm in traffic and somebody gets in front of me. I know how selfish I am of wanting my own way. I know how jealous I can be when I see somebody get something that I want. And it drives me crazy that I still have the sin that I deal with. There's a song that our choir sings called This Blood. And as they build up into the chorus, there's a line where they say, what can wash away my sin? Nothing, nothing. And I really feel those lines because it sums up the helplessness and hopelessness that sin brings to us. What can wash away our sin? Nothing. There's nothing we can do about it. It's a bigger problem than us. It's a problem that we can't fix. It's overwhelming us and it's going to sink us, and we can't do anything about it. But Jesus can. And He does. And He will. As I've grown as a Christian, I do still get really aggravated at the sin in my life. But I know that I'm holier than I ever thought I would be. God has called us to be holy. There's still lots of places I need to do different. There are lots of places I need to be better. There are still times that I find I don't love God as much as I should, that there are things that I love Him more. Things that I love more than I love Him. But I'm getting better. I'm growing in holiness. And it's something that we can all do. It can happen for all of us. Jesus is there to help us, to strengthen us, to encourage us, for us to rely on. And He makes a difference.